Well, I mean, it's really a baby step, but every first step is something now. Every baby step is something. Look, we don't know exactly when this is going to happen, but sometime around the first week of June, these teams expect to hear something from the league that's just a preliminary, hey, get ready. Maybe start getting your players back. And by the way, that process is complicated depending on where the players are coming from and what market they're going to. Some markets are open, some markets are closed. But just the very notion that the NBA appears to be ready at some point in the next couple weeks to say, okay, get ready. We're going to start ramping up and ramp up one stage of practice and another. Everything is trending toward something happening, games happening.
It's interesting, too, because there's been discussion back and forth, Zach, about if they do have a season, what would a championship really mean? Would there be an asterisk, as Shaq reported? You had some feelings on that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I shouldn't say Shaq reported, by the way. I should say Shaq opined.
Yeah, he opined. But you hear that. It's not just Shaq. You hear that all the time. You know, what if player X catches the virus and that really screws up a first-round series or a second-round series? Yeah, that could happen. And if a superstar gets hurt, it always sort of screws up the playoffs a little bit. But I actually think this could work the other way around. I think there could be a certain badge of honor in being the team that, in these circumstances, in this strangeness, comes out and survives all the playoffs, survives 4 playoff rounds. Certainly they're going to be a champion we remember forever because this is so different. I actually think it could be a badge of honor, a sign of toughness, something a team can be proud of. The asterisk doesn't have to be a negative connotation. It could be something to actually be proud of 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Zach. Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
Perk, I wanted to ask you about something your ex-teammate James Harden said. He was asked by CNBC about Zach and Woj's report specifically. James said he's cool with playing games without a crowd. He also said he'd feel comfortable playing basketball again. But Perk, he stipulated he would be comfortable when the pandemic has, quote, calmed down all the way to a minimum. That is an interesting distinction. Harden went on to say, I want it to be safe. I want it to be entertaining for the fans and players to get out there and compete. As soon as we can get this ramped up, I'm ready to go. I feel like the majority of players feel the same way. So, Perk, it's interesting. Everyone's version of safe is a little bit different, right? And when he says the virus to a minimum, it could be more than a year, right, before we get a vaccine or a real adequate treatment. Would you be willing, if you were a player in the league today, to lose the significant amount of money that could come to just wait this pandemic out?
See, Rachel, here's the problem again. Now, come on, James. We're talking about James Harden, a guy who makes hundreds of millions of dollars outside of basketball. It's only about, 10% of those guys that make that much money outside of hooping. A lot of these guys need to get back to work. And if it was me in that position, I was a 14-year role player. Absolutely, I'm ready to get back to work. Because like I told you before, Rachel, on one of the shows, that hey, listen, this is a job. This is how I feed my family. This is how I put clothes on my kids' back and food on the table. At the end of the day, James, everyone is not like you. We don't have hundreds of millions of dollars just laying around. Although we make a great amount of money, but just think about it. You got everyday people who are working at gas stations and working at Walgreens and grocery stores and putting their lives on the line. I'm pretty sure the NBA, who's a billion-dollar business, a billion-dollar industry, is going to cross all their T's and dot all their I's and have it pretty safe for basketball players to return.
Well, I mean, look, there's been some details coming out about what that would look like. Lakers vet Jared Dudley confirmed on a conference call yesterday what, Zach, you guys have been reporting for a couple weeks now here at ESPN, that if play does resume, even if all the teams play at 1 or 2 sites, the NBA won't be confining players to a strict quarantine bubble that forbids anyone from going in or out. Instead, it would be more of like a campus environment with careful testing, safety measures in place, but not a perimeter. Dudley stressed, though, that while players won't be forbidden from going out, he does expect plenty of pressure between teammates to play it safe, since anyone testing positive for COVID would be quarantined for 2 weeks and removed from being able to play and help the team. Dudley added this, that when it comes to their Lakers squad, quote, Bron, AD, and all the top guys we have, we'll be wrapping them in a bubble and not letting them go anywhere. It'll be an informal team rule. Now, it won't be a league or an NBA rule, but you would want to say, listen, guys, we've come too far. We're going to put our family and everything else on hold. So, Zach, is that what you have heard sort of about where we are?
Yeah, I mean, there's not going to be, I don't think, there's no such thing as a perfect bubble. There's no such thing as a perfect fail-safe solution. There's always going to be gaps and risks and all of that. And I think Jared is right that all you can do is try to mitigate your exposure as best as you can. But there's just no way to mitigate it completely. And very likely someone is going to get this. Maybe a player gets it. And I think the challenge is not just that player. I mean, that player's got to quarantine. We know what that player has to do. What the NBA is still figuring out is, exactly what do his teammates have to do? They all get tested, but how long do they have to be quarantined? Is it just a few hours? Is it just overnight? All of that stuff is, I think we're trending toward answering those questions, but these are really hard questions. I mean, none of us have ever lived through anything like this, and the NBA is trying to figure it out just like everyone else is trying to figure it out.
Yeah, Zach, I agree with you. And listen, I'm with it. I agree with Jared Dudley. But look, at the end of the day, as hoopers, we missed the game, and guys are ready to get back to work. And I think they're going to take the needed actions, the actions that need to be taken in order to stay on the court. They're going to do everything in their power to make sure that they try to stay healthy and do their part, because guys miss the game. Y'all know the old saying, you never know what you got until it's gone.
Yep.
And guys are realizing that, and they would never take the NBA for granted again if they did. So, guys want to get back to work, and I'm pretty sure that all NBA players are going to do their part outside of what they have to do with the team and try to stay safe and try to stay healthy.
Well, I don't know if this is wrapping LeBron in a bubble, but there was a tweet from Stadium this morning that LeBron has been holding some private workouts with one or two teammates at a time in safe conditions. And I should say this is allowed under the current rules. Just gives you an idea, though, of where the Lakers' thinking is right now. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.